Thanks again, everyone, for joining us. We're conducting this informal media availability today via Zoom because, as you can tell, we've got a lot of folks from the city side here today. We wanted also to accommodate as many media outlets as possible and enable you to get the sound and recording that you need. So again, if you need to tape this and you can't, please let us know. The team is moving deliberately but quickly. And this is your opportunity to get all of your questions answered and get fully apprised on where we stand and what we're doing moving forward. You should have received background information in the email that we sent out today. If you need additional information, please let me know. But at this time, I'll turn it over to Mayor Evans for a few introductory remarks before we get to the Q&A. Mayor.
Yes, give me 30 seconds and I'll be with you folks in 1 second. I just have to do one thing.
Absolutely. Carlette, I see some folks in our waiting room wondering if you can engage with them. I know there's a phone number there. I'm not sure who that is. I just want to make sure we know who's coming in. What I'll do when we get to the Q&A portion of the avail, I will go around the room and call on you based on where you are on my screen. And we can answer, you can ask a couple of questions and we can loop back around. My goal here is to make sure you get all of your questions answered. And if you need more, of course, we're here for more information.
Okay, sorry about that. I'll be brief because I think we mainly want to spend time taking your questions. We don't have much to report in terms of anything that we're announcing new. Really what I want to do is just thank the Cannabis Preparation Commission for getting together. Many of the folks are here on this call. As you know, the deadline for municipalities to opt out of the cannabis retail side was December 31st. We are one of the few local municipalities that are going to be taking advantage of allowing cannabis licensing in our area. We're still waiting on the final regulations, although we have seen some stuff from the state in terms of what will be the final rules as it relates to cannabis. Our main focus, obviously, and our legal counsel can speak to this, will be around manner and means. So she can talk about that. The biggest thing is we are excited about supporting local entrepreneurs who want to learn more about business opportunities by the cannabis industry, especially those who have been disproportionately impacted by the criminalization of marijuana. As has been written statewide, the MRTA intends to award 50% of all adult use licenses to social and economic equity applicants, including individuals who have lived in communities disproportionately impacted by previous drug laws and other underrepresented groups, including MWBs, distressed farmers, and service and disabled-owned veterans. So that gives, I think, a good number of people in Rochester a shot at having the opportunity to take advantage of cannabis once it becomes legal. And again, I think it's important for us to underline that the MRTA has not yet defined the adult use cannabis regulations because I've been getting a lot of questions about that. Those are still to be defined, but the underlying point here is that we are ahead of the game because we are already having these conversations before all of these regulations come down, so that way we can be prepared as a city to take advantage of this opportunity. I think the other piece that is outstanding that we will continue to have conversations on is that once we start getting the revenue that will derive from this locally, how we will use those funds to, enhance our overall community for entrepreneurship or other things. Those are all good conversations that we're looking forward to be able to, to be able to move forward on that type of issue. I did want to mention the engagement piece, Barb, that want to come up. I don't have that date in front of me right now, but the commission is going to have some public engagement. What date do we have listed?
April 14th. Yep.
Okay, so April 14th, 2022 at 6 p.m. We will be scheduling our first public information session to review our plans and timeline for defining local rules and regulations. I want to be clear about something that's very important for folks, because this can get very complicated. Sometimes I'll get letters from folks that says, why are you legalizing marijuana? There is not a single city that had a say-so. I mean, we talked about it. We could weigh in on it, but marijuana legalization is a state regulation. It is a state rule. The state of New York legalized marijuana. The city of Rochester did not legalize marijuana. All we're saying is that the state legalized it, so we are going to take advantage of the tax revenue that we can garner from it. So I think it's important for folks to understand that. We'll also have public input sessions on zoning and regulations and business development education as we get closer to May and June. And then, our goal is by September to be able to propose regulations that define the time, place, and manner for legal adult use marijuana sales in the city of Rochester. I want to underline this again, and reporters, you out on the line, can be very helpful in understanding this for the public. We are not deciding whether or not marijuana is legal or not in the city of Rochester. It's legal. It's legal in New York State. So people can smoke, people will be able to consume marijuana if that is what you decide to do. I won't be taking part, but those that are interested will have the right to do that. And that's not because the city of Rochester is saying that they can do it. It's because the state of New York passed the law. All we're talking about is the legal mechanisms of the dispensaries, et cetera, within the city of Rochester. So I want to be clear on that. And then a lot of what we're doing, again, is predicated and dependent upon what the state decides to do. So we are excited about the opportunity. We look forward to hearing people at the public information session on April 14th. There's a lot of other local stuff that the city isn't doing. Like, for example, on Friday, I'm participating in a conference that is about marijuana, about this topic, and they have a bunch of different workshops and things that they are doing, which will be very, very interesting for us. They're doing stuff on legal and compliance, educational and professional services. They'll have lawyers there doing some great workshops and that type of stuff. So there are a lot of events in the community that are also addressing this topic. But the main thing that we're really focused on is manners, use, and then making sure that we are ahead of the game as it relates to the cannabis. And we wanted to give this update because this Cannabis Preparation Commission, many of whom are on the call, have been very busy in terms of working on getting things moving there. So with that, Barb, I'll turn it over to you. We're going to have Linda weigh in and then take questions?
I think it makes sense just to take a moment to really reiterate time, place, and manner to define for you what it is we will be talking about locally and what we can affect, because to the mayor's point, there's not a lot. So Linda, do you want to just define that for us?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Barb. As the mayor said, our main role is defining time, place, and manner. And we can have regulations on those three areas as long as they don't make the business operations unreasonably impractical. So if we were to create regulations that meant they virtually could be nowhere in the city, that would be a challenge. But time, place, and manner. Time is the obvious, the hours of operation. Place is zoning, and we will be looking at zoning, and we may decide that different types of cannabis businesses belong in different parts of the city. You know, we have retail dispensaries, we have consumption lounges, and then you have other businesses like the growers and the producers, which may be better placed in different locations throughout the city. The baseline for place that we need to adhere to is the state baseline of 500 feet from a school or 200 feet from a house of worship. We can do more than that, but we cannot do less than that. And we are entitled to define other sensitive uses and distance from those uses. Manner is really the item we'll probably focus a lot on, and that is how business is conducted. Marijuana businesses have different challenges that other businesses might not. There can be odor issues that we want to regulate, security issues that we want to address, window displays, how they're presented in a manner that is palatable to the community. Those are the kinds of things we'll be looking at and making decisions on as we move forward. We have been, as a group, spending a lot of time consulting with other municipalities in states where it's already legal to deal with their lessons learned. And we've gotten a lot from that to help us look at time, place, and manner. Mayor?
Thanks. And the other thing I'll say is that one of the reasons why we have city council members on here is to show that partnership, because city council will be responsible for passing a lot of the zoning things that will be proposed and et cetera. So this is another opportunity of collaboration that we have here, and why you see conversations with the public that will be so important is because we want the public to know that they also have a role to play in the ongoing deliberations here. So with that, Barb, we want to start calling on people who might have questions. I see some folks. Some aren't showing their face. Brian Sharp looks like he's in. I got him in another planet somewhere. I got him. Brian, were you hiding somewhere?
He doesn't share his video. So we'll go around the Zoom. Like I said, Mayor's going to field the questions, and if he needs, he'll kick it to a subject matter expert. So starting with Randy Gorman.
Yeah, Mayor, how you doing today?
Hey, Randy, how are you?
Good, sir. Just wondered, not that you necessarily have control over this, certainly, but I think the state first passed the legalization for recreational purposes back in September of 2021. It's been about a year and a half, and I guess from what I'm hearing, we won't get these final regulations till later this year. For whatever you want to do, whether it be for a more equitable situation, for economic development, are you frustrated with the pace of how long it's taking to get these regulations done?
Well, I'd rather have them, do it slow and correctly than fast and haphazardly. So I'm assuming that because this is such a complicated issue that it is taking a little bit more time. But I'm hoping that, soon they will have some regulations codified that we'll be able to use for our particular purposes. But obviously, I'm in a hurry to get this done, but I do want to make sure that it is done correctly. I think that we have a lot of opportunity. The good thing is that it's given us time to make sure that all of our I's are dotted and T's are crossed. So we're using this time wisely as the state seeks to work through their process. But I think that we'll be more than ready once they come forward with whatever it is that they're going to propose in terms of regulation as it relates to cannabis.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Patrick Musanak, Channel 10.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Mayor Evans.
Hey, Patrick.
How are you?
Good.
Quick question. I know you touched upon it a little bit, but what will sales revenue and profits help fund here in the city?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think that's one of the conversations that I'm very excited about. What I hope to be able to do is, obviously I have my ideas, but I really want to take some of these conversations to the community to say, hey, we have this revenue. What do you think? For me, I love to see it go back into social equity. For me, in particular, entrepreneurship is something that I'm very interested in. I think that's an opportunity. High Times Magazine wrote something saying that I was considering, forms of universal basic income. I think the sky is the limit in terms of ways in which we're looking at using the revenue that we derive, but it will definitely be a community conversation internally here at City Hall with myself and City Council, but also a larger community conversation to make sure that we get a good feedback from folks on what it is they want to see those money used. And we have some good internal mechanisms that we use for gathering input. We do that for our budget every year. So a lot of people don't know, we talk to thousands of people related to our budget every year. And we do that through technology. And that's how I'm able to get information for crafting the budget. We will be able to do something similar for how we would want to see the revenue that is derived from marijuana use. I think that I think entrepreneurship for me would be a major priority in terms of helping businesses that want to be able to move forward. I think that this could be a possible source for that. Others will have other ideas, but we will create the forum in which people will be able to weigh in and give their 2 cents.
Yeah, I know that you mentioned April 14th will be the first public information session. You must have heard some ideas by now from the community. Can you share some of those with us?
I think one of the things that I hear regularly, and I'm sure that the committee members may hear others, is that they want to make sure that people who are often left out of entrepreneurship have an opportunity to get involved. And the biggest part that I hear is that those who may not have the means to operate a business, that they somehow benefit from these opportunities, and that no community is lost. So this really represents an opportunity to help people who are interested in business to do that and address some of the social challenges, social issues that we've had in our community as a result of the harshness of past marijuana laws that we are all changing. We're seeing them change all across the country. So I think that that's a theme that we heard. The question will be, how do we make sure that we get there? I mean, there's lessons learned from other places. I think the fact that we are going at this after Illinois, after Massachusetts, after some of the other states that are doing it, it gives us an opportunity to also see how we can correct or not fall into the mistakes that other states and municipalities have had. If we don't, shame on us, but it really gives us the opportunity to learn from others that have gone before us.
Thanks.
Yep, Patrick.
All right, thanks. Gino Finale.
How you doing, Mayor?
Hey, Gino.
So 2 questions here. One of the things is, as this moves forward, the gifting market in Rochester, I know the nuisance abatement part of this, of trying to crack down on places that are selling illegally right now is a committee. It's supposed to go to a vote in April. But is there any more conversations happening about, when the legal market starts to open up here, how they can, how the city can mitigate some of the impact of the black market that still does exist here, or the so-called gray market that still exists here?
Yeah, no, good question. I mean, I think that this is going to be a major challenge for not just us, but the state, because you want to play with the level playing field, but at the same time, you want to help people who may be operating in that black market. You want them to be able to come to light. So I think from an educational standpoint and from a training connection opportunity, how do you make sure that people who are in the black market don't feel as though they can come out of the shadows to participate? Is it partnerships that they're able to form with folks who are going legit? The other thing is that how do we also make sure people who are doing this gifting stuff that they don't get an unfair advantage? That's what I'm concerned about. You all of a sudden you get a corner on the market because you're doing this gifting stuff because you have the means to be able to buy T-shirts or other high-level things with inventory. How do we make sure that you aren't getting an unfair advantage because you're able to build up all this revenue and other stuff because you're doing it under the radar, under the guise of gifting? So I think that's going to be a major challenge. But I like to flip it and think of it from the positive side. Maybe that is an opportunity for an established business or someone who might have the means that needs the street cred or the built-in customer base that some of these other folks might have, that they can maybe form some type of strategic partnerships to get to mitigate the black market. Now, there's always going to be a black market. I mean, there's people who sell cigarettes, right? Believe it or not, there's people who sell alcohol without a license. So there's a black market for everything. I'm not Pollyannish or naive enough to think that there won't ever be a black market, but we should try to mitigate it the best way that we can. And I think a way to do that is to have education, is to have connections to help people realize, hey, this is how you're able to do it from a legitimate standpoint, and here's how we can help you make some connections with these folks. But that's a challenge. I mean, it's going to be a challenge. And the reason why I worry about it is because I don't want, people should worry about the city. And I said this at a city council committee meeting. They really should be more concerned about the state, right? Because the state is not messing around. I mean, they already have pretty tight restrictions on the medical marijuana front. So we don't want people getting in trouble for something that's illegal, right? If they and they're getting in trouble because they're deciding to operate in the black market. We want to find a way to help them be able to be legit, and that might mean just making sure that they get the education, that they get the connections in order to make that happen.
Gotcha. And the second thing I wanted to ask was about public consumption. So in the state law, it is allowed for anywhere you can smoke a cigarette and not, be legally cited or arrested. You can smoke a joint. And it's up to local municipalities whether they want to decide where the people can and can't do that. Are there any conversations happening about around the idea of where someone is allowed to smoke marijuana in the city of Rochester?
I'm sure more of those conversations will be happening, and I'm sure the commission will bring me some of their recommendations when they talk about the manner piece. But, we have pretty strict laws around smoking in general. You usually don't see folks that are supposed to be smoking outside of a school or other places. Obviously, I can't light up here in City Hall if I wanted to. Again, I said I don't consume, so don't write that I'm going to be smoking in City Hall. But I think that it should be similar in my mind. This is just me speaking, and I'm sure we'll hear more when we talk to the public. I think it should be regulated similar to the same way we do smoking. Where it says no smoking within 200 feet. Might be at a hospital or something like that. Because one of the things that you heard Linda say is you don't want to make it onerous, right? Already, if you ride around the city, or not even around the city, if you ride around the county, currently you will see people who smoke marijuana the way cigarettes are being currently smoked, right? It's not like as if they're doing it differently. So, but I will add this about marijuana: it is still a controlled substance. So, we have to educate people. This is where the education piece is so important, that we have to make sure that people are educated on this. They shouldn't be smoking when they're driving. It should not be. So how do we make sure we educate folks to say, hey, don't smoke when you drive, for your own safety and for your own, and for your own, because of the law, because there still is a controlled substance. I think that more of those conversations will be taking place as we continue to roll this out. But I don't see it being that much different than smoking a cigarette.
Got it. Thank you. That's all I had.
Yep.
Thanks, Gino. I'm going to go now to Andrew Freeman, Spectrum.
Thank you. Hi, how are you, Mayor?
Hi.
I was just wondering about just when we're talking about time, manner, place, maybe a more subjective or holistic, in a more subjective, holistic way, what your vision for a Rochester with this infrastructure set up would look like, and what you hope it brings to the city.
I'm a banker by profession. One of the things I am concerned about most is the revenue. I want to make sure that we get the revenue that we need, because I think we'll be able to do some good things as it relates to the revenue that can be derived from cannabis. But in terms of time, manner, place, it's important that we are respectful of our neighborhoods, that we are respectful of our citizens, that we make sure that we follow the regulations as outlined by the state, and that we don't do anything that's too onerous, but at the same time that we make sure that our neighborhoods feel as though they are respected, that they feel as though they had a voice in the regulations that we are that we are going to outline. I think that's important, and it shouldn't be set up in such a way where it looks like it is out of control. It needs to be organized, and it needs to be effective. That is extremely important. And if you go to some of the other places that have legalized, you really can't tell that that there are these places. So how do you make sure that it looks in a way that it's done with some style, and that is done in a way where it will be consistent with our neighborhoods and what we have to offer. So it's not like a big shocker to the system. So for me, that will be my vision for what happens. But long term, it's the revenue derived that I think will be a benefit for all of us, and the opportunity to bring people into this legally is really the upside, and why Rochester decided to be a part of it. And I think that's the key. We also want to make sure that there's rules of engagement for people. People always talk about the city, but a lot of people who will be customers in this business won't be coming from the city. They're going to be coming from the surrounding areas, because the surrounding areas won't have places set up the way we will, because of all the work that we're doing and because we opted into this. So we want to make sure that those coming in to take part in this understand that there is that there are rules of engagement, that we expect them to uphold the dignity of our neighborhoods when they come to take part in this legal business.
Absolutely. And just to follow up, when we're talking about revenue and making sure it gets into the right hands, that's a pretty overarching statement. But I mean, in what ways do you see that, like specifically in concrete ways, that this revenue could lift up neighborhoods or help people get into this industry and lift them up that way? I mean, what are some of the concrete ways?
Well, one concrete way is, you have a business development program that focuses on entrepreneurship. How do you fund that type of thing? Or you have a fund that is geared towards home ownership to help build generational wealth, because people tack equity in their homes in order to help start businesses. So how do you put funds that are there? How do you make sure that some of the funds goes to education, to affect people's business acumen? Those are serious concrete ways in which you can put dollars behind in order to affect change in people's lives. So those things are important. Suppose you had a business pitch competition for individuals, right? And we put money behind that business pitch competition for individuals that wanted to help start their business. So you could take dollars that are derived from this marijuana revenue and put it towards real stuff for real people where it can have a real impact. And it's a different set of revenue that you did not have before. So part of the reason why it was passed was there was this whole belief that we needed to make sure we addressed social inequity that happened as a result of the draconian marijuana laws that happened. So we have models of things that we can put money towards. So that's what it looks like. It looks like taking those dollars and making sure that there is an opportunity for people to benefit in a positive way from getting that tax revenue that we're going to be derived from that.
And then my station wanted me to ask an off topic. Is there time for that later? Should we circle back
Yes, Andrew, circle back with me. I don't know that we have time today because I've still got several media here on this topic, so I can talk to you and we can see what we can do later. But next up is Brian. Thank you, Brian Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to. You've touched on this in a couple of ways here, but I'm wondering again on the time, manner, place. If you're going into this with some ideas of things you'd like to see, you mentioned about wanting to, as far as place or things, but maybe it seemed like you were hinting at maybe not in neighborhood commercial corridors, or I'm just wondering if you have some rough ideas of regulations you'd like to see to respect.
No, I'm waiting to see. I'm going to wait till my commission is done with a lot of what they're saying, but I will tell you that I think that it's important that it's zoned correctly, right? I mean, for example, I don't want to see a marijuana dispensary, right next to a school. Right. I just don't want to. I don't want to see that. Right. Or and I don't think the regulations allow that anyway. So I just think we have to be smart on where we put things. I think we have one thing about Rochester is we have a lot of great space and we have a lot of empty space. So how can we make sure that we put it in places where it fits within the character of the place that we are putting it. Right. So and we have those industrial type areas within the city or places where I think it would make sense to have these types of things. So I just think that that's important, particularly because there are going to be a lot of people, because this is new, that are going to be very skeptical about where it is in the beginning. So we just have to be smart about where we put it. So offhand, those are just some of the things that I'm thinking about. I'm sure we'll have specific recommendations as it relates to zoning in place and where it's going to be. But next to a playground, we can't do that anyway. But still, even if it says, let's say it says 1,000 feet, do I want it 2,000 feet from a playground? So that type of thing is important. We have tons of commercial corridors. We also have a lot of industrial type space in Rochester. So I think where we have it will not be that big of an issue because we have we're blessed in Rochester in that we have the space. We're very spread out, very large city. So I think that will be a very important piece of the conversation, the where we allow these places to operate. So that's important. But even equally, I'm as interested in, and although we don't control this, but we can influence it, is how do we ensure that those that are left behind can feel as though they're a part of something. That's also a big piece that is on my mind and important to me as well.
And I guess that's what I was wondering, is because just some of the benefit could be from having a business in a neighborhood, ease of access as well as investment in a neighborhood, or if that's something you want to avoid. I
think that's something that we have to have a conversation about. I mean, we in the African American community, we already have enough pawn shops, liquor stores, and check cashing places. So we'd have to have that conversation, right? We got a lot of that stuff already. Oh, and rent centers, I should add. So we want to have obviously it's legal, it's great, but I think that for me, when I think about business development, the marijuana dispensaries and marijuana is just one piece of it. And when I'm talking about neighborhoods a lot, I'm talking about grocery stores, banks, bakers, and the other things that I get from surveys that people want to see in their neighborhood. So we'll have to thread the needle there. Businesses, we need a variety of things, but do I want 6 marijuana dispensaries on Genesee Street? If you ask me that, the answer is no, I don't.
All right. Thanks, Brian. Wham 1180, I see you on here. Do you have a question? All right. WROC TV 8. All right. And Wham TV 13. Any questions there? All right. Any questions from anyone else? Any other follow-up from those who went first? I see Randy coming off mute.
Yeah, just sorry, scrambling here just to get 1 second. No offense to the mayor, enjoyed hearing from him, but wanted to get another voice in here. Ebony Miller from the Center for Urban Entrepreneurship. May I ask you a question?
Sure.
In terms of, and I know the mayor probably covered a lot of this in some of the recent comments this hour, but from your angle of looking at things from the urban entrepreneurship angle, how important do you think over time cannabis sales and businesses that the mayor's been talking about today, how important will they be for the city's economic vitality? Do you see a lot of potential here?
I do see a lot of potential, but how we move forward will make the difference. So if we don't get this right and provide the assistance necessary and articulate the regulations that are coming down from the state accurately, it could be a mess. So, the whole purpose in this committee is to make sure that we have it right, and then we can provide the assistance necessary to move forward and make sure that we do stimulate the economic development within the city as we plan.
But you do see potential here, though. I mean, if we do things right, as you mentioned.
Absolutely.
Very good. Thank you.
And I also saw Patrick come off mute. Patrick, you have a question for the mayor?
Actually, maybe someone else. Mayor had mentioned about 6 dispensaries on Genesee Street. He doesn't want to see something like that. I had a similar question where I was going to ask, we have grocery stores that sell liquor, and then you have a liquor store kind of across the street from each other. Can 2 cannabis retail shops be across the street from each other?
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, I don't know the answer to that question. I think obviously could they, but will we allow that? I mean, that's TBD. I don't know. Obviously, you can have liquor stores all over the place, but that's up to the New York State Liquor Authority. But you just drive around some of our neighborhoods and you'll see liquor stores all over the place. So will we allow dispensaries right across from each other? I don't know yet. I can't say. But you heard I stand by what I said previously. Do I want to see five dispensaries all on the same street? No, I don't. So you can kind of get the hint on what I would think about two dispensaries right across the street from each other.
All right.
All right,
thank you.
maybe you want to take one or two more, Barbara, then we're done.
Yep, exactly right. I saw Brian come off of mute.
Yeah, I was just wondering for Linda, you had mentioned about talking with other states and some lessons learned. I was wondering if you could give a little more detail on what states, I don't know if there's any states in particular you've been focused on or had the most conversations with, and what are some of those lessons learned?
We have talked to the folks in Massachusetts. They've been doing it for a few years now. We've talked to folks from a number of cities in Colorado, which is one of the earliest legal states. And we've been talking to the government folks in Los Angeles. I think the lessons learned comes mostly in the area of time, place, and manner, figuring out what, people didn't think initially about the odors that would come out of some of the processing facilities, or the odors that would come out of the consumption lounges, security issues that are important and practical. In Massachusetts, some of the communities have required that the dispensaries do it by appointment, so there aren't traffic problems. So they've given us a lot of ideas of things to think about as we're putting our proposals together that, frankly, I might not have thought of on my own with us not having been exposed to this before. So people have been very helpful in other states. There is a national group of municipal attorneys that's been meeting on this to share information, and it will all help inform us as we, as a committee, make recommendations to the mayor.
All right, thanks, everybody. I want to say, just to reiterate, that we are going to be starting public information and then public input sessions. And that first public information session being again on the 14th of April at 6 p.m. And more information will be made available moving forward. Thanks for coming today. And again, you've got my contact information. Happy to facilitate any other questions you might have in the future. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.